Hey guys, and welcome back. Now that you learned the basics of Magic the Gathering, I would like to show you a deck of mine and also give you a rundown on why and how it works. So why don't we jump right on it. We'll start on our 1 mana creature drops, Champion of the Parish. A strong card if played on turn 1 and can easily become one of the biggest creatures on your side of the field. If the enemy can't remove it, you sure believe this guy would give your enemy a beating. The card reads, whenever a human enters your side of the field, put a +1/+1 counter on this card. Since this deck is full of humans, you'll have no problem making Champion the Parish at 3/3 on turn 2. Our last 1 mana creature is Kytheon, Hero of Akros. Another 1 mana 2/1, and if you pay 2 colorless and 1 white for a total of 3 mana, it gains indestructible until the end of turn. This ability can be played anytime an instant can be played, so you can guess this card is very hard removing off the field, though there are ways around getting rid of indestructible cards, such as forcing a player to sacrifice, exiling, and return to hand effects. Kytheon also has a battalion trigger in some aspects. It reads, if this card and more than 2 other creatures attacks, transform this card at the end of combat. Get this, he transforms into a planeswalker with additional effects. This means after your combat phase you can use one of Gideon's abilities. His +2 makes an opponent attack Gideon. He also has a +1 ability that makes target creature indestructible until the end of turn. His last ability costs 0, and it will make him a 4/4 indestructible creature until the end of turn. This is great for you because he will also get an additional effect from your other cards. Because you're limited to 1 legendary creature of the same name at a time on the field, you cannot double it or you have to sacrifice 1. That being said, you can have both the transformed and untransformed versions on the field at the same time. Wow, those were some good 1 mana drops, but we have to move on to our 2 mana creature drops. And can you believe that we only have a playset of 1? This card is Precinct Captain. That's a 2/2 first striker, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to put a 1/1 white soldier token onto the battlefield. This card is amazing! By the second turn, if the enemy didn't block one of your 1 manas, you know you're in the clear. They either have to remove the card, block it, or take a hit giving you a 1/1 soldier token. Plus you're keeping up the pressure by putting something on the field that's more dangerous than one of your 1 mana drops. I would recommend getting a playset of them, as they're your only token spawners and real power in your deck. While this card won't necessarily win you the game, it's great aggro token generator. But before I talk about instants and sorceries, we need to finish our creatures. So let's look at our 3 mana creatures. Our first guy will power up your soldiers. He's the Great Field Marshal. The card states that other soldiers get +1/+1 and first strike. So now your 1/1 soldier tokens you got from Precinct Captains are 2/2s with first strike. And your Champion the Parish is an XX right now. If the enemy hasn't removed it already, it has first strike as well. The synergy here is overflowing. I wouldn't recommend you attacking with this guy, as he's one of the weaker creatures in your deck. But by now the enemy has hopefully used all their kill cards in their hands and is hoping to top deck a mass or spot removal. Keep this guy where he belongs, behind his troops drinking some beer or ale at the command post. Our last 3 mana creature card is one of my favorites. This guy poops out soldiers for you. He's called Bremas, King of Or Scroll. Hopefully I said that correctly. He's a 3/4 legendary cat soldier with vigilance. And his abilities read, whenever this card attacks, put a 1/1 white cat soldier creature token with vigilance onto the field attacking. Whenever this card blocks, soldier token with vigilance on the battlefield blocking that creature. Either way, attacking or defending, you can be sure to bring out a couple of tokens before he dies. Our last card costs 4 mana to cast. Yes, it's a bit much, but it's definitely going to surprise your enemy, and maybe even win you the game, if you use it correctly. She's called Elspeth, Knight Errant, a planeswalker with very useful abilities. Her +1 ability puts a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield. she also has another +1 ability which gives target creature +3/+3 and flying until the end of the turn. Her last ability costs -8, but will give you an emblem that states artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and lands you control are indestructible. So let's move on to our 1 mana instants and sorcery spells. These guys will help you by putting more tokens onto the field, buffing them up and protecting them. Let's start with Brave the Elements, a 1 mana instant card that states that it gives all creatures you control protection from a color of choice until the end of the turn. Now you can use this in 2 ways, aggressively and defensively. If you need to be aggressive, you can give protection to all your creatures so that they can deal damage to the opponent that they cannot block. You can also give your creatures protection from some removal or an opponent's creature if need be. This 1 mana instant is an all around useful and great card, though be careful if people are running multicolored decks. Definitely get a playset of these. The next 1 mana card is an instant spot removal. The players who have been playing this game for a while would probably have guessed it by now. Yes, the one and only path to exile. It reads exile target creature. That creature's controller searches for a basic land card and puts it on the field tapped. A great removal, but with every 1 mana removal there's a small drawback. If path is a bit too much for you, here are some other cards you could use. Sword of the Plowshares would do the same thing, but instead of land, the target opponent gains life equal to the exile creature's power. If you're looking for something cheaper, get Condemn. The only downside of this is that you have to wait for them to attack you, and they still gain life equal to target creature's toughness. They all do the same thing, just remember to get a full playset of 1. The last 1 mana sorcery spell is called Launch the Fleet. This card states that you may pay 1 more colorless mana after the first white mana that has been paid to target another creature after the first. Whenever each creature attacks that has been targeted with Launch the Fleet, you get to put a 1/1 white soldier tapped and attacking onto the battlefield. This card can easily double your army and wipe out the enemy. And if you have Field Marshal on the field, those 1/1s are now 2/2s at first strike. Or you can just Brave the Elements and do a mass amount of damage that's unblockable if they're not running 2 colors or more. Last but not least are 2 mana instants and enchantments. Let's start with Honor the Pure, a 2 mana enchantment that gives all creatures you control +1/+1. It's an easy way to keep up the pressure. Now those 2/2 soldiers with first strikes are 3/3s or more. Our last 2 mana instant is called Raise the Alarm. This card states put 2 1/1 soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. It's an instant, so remember you can play it any time. It's good for instant blockers in a tight pinch, or used at the end of an opponent's turn so you can swing for battalion triggers. Getting 4 of them is a definite must. As for lands, you will need 21 basics and 2 Windbrisk Heights, for a total of 23 lands. Windbrisk Heights comes into the battlefield tapped and has Hideaway on it, which means you can look at the top 4 cards of your library and put one face down under that land. It can also be tapped for 1 white mana if you attacked with 3 or more creatures. You can pay 1 white mana, tap it, and use the card that you exiled for free. Now why in the world would you ever want to do that? Because it's a great and evil way to wipe out your enemy's field. How? Let me explain. Let's pretend you have 2 1/1 soldiers and a precinct captain on the field. An enemy has a 3/3 and a 2/2. You decide to attack and it'll leave your opponent wondering why you were trying to commit suicide. So he decides his blockers and you'll pay 1 white mana and tap the Windbrisk Heights, and you'll summon a free Field Marshal. Now your 1/1s are 2/2s with first strike and your captain is a 3/3. You just wiped his field, leaving him open for an attack the next turn. You can also do the same thing for Honor the Pure. You can use this secret effect in other ways too, like throwing down a Brave the Elements for a quick finish, or a spot removal, have to exile. Yes, they are 1 mana and you could cast them from your hand, but what's better than surprising your enemy with a devastating attack when you have no cards in your hand? So let's recap on card numbers. 4 Champions of the Parish, 2 Kythons, Hero of Akros, 4 Precinct Captains, 3 Field Marshals, 2 Bremas King of Oroscles, 3 Elsbeth Knight Errants, 4 Path to Exile, Sword of the Plowshares, or Condemn, 4 Brave the Elements, 4 Launch the Fleets, 3 Honor the Pures, 4 Raise the Alarms, and 21 Plains, and 2 Windbrisk Heights. If you decide to build this deck, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I'm always ready to rip it out and face somebody. Show your support by clicking the like button. It will show me that people are interested in more of these videos in the future. Subscribe so you can be up to date with the latest in gaming and my MTG deck tech. And remember, you only learn when you lose, so keep practicing.